All right, what's next? What else they can do?
Right, because it almost feels like they can't be done right. They've got to have something else up their sleeve.
Exactly. And that's what we're diving into today, folks, is could they land another superstar? Could they actually get Vladimir Guerrero Jr.?
Now that's a dream scenario right there.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. You already get Soto locked in, and then you add a guy like Guerrero Jr. I mean, last season alone, he was hitting .323.
30 home runs, 103 RBIs.
And that's not a fluke. He's been doing this consistently for the past 4 years.
Right, and the guy's only 26 years old, so he's got so much more baseball ahead of him.
And that's the key, right? He's not just a flash in the pan. He's not just a one-year wonder. He's the real deal.
Absolutely, and he's durable, too. You know, you look at his stats, he's played in almost every single game over the past 4 seasons.
Wow.
I mean, the guy's an Iron Man. He was in like 636 out of 648 games. That's incredible.
So on paper, I mean, it's a dream acquisition, right? Young superstar, consistent, proven track record, durable, what's not to love.
Right, but there's a catch.
Of course there is. There's always a catch.
The Blue Jays, they're not exactly shopping him around.
Yeah, they just gave him a pretty hefty contract, didn't they?
They did. They gave him $28.5 million to avoid arbitration for 2025.
So for those who aren't familiar with arbitration, could you just quickly explain that?
Sure. So basically, arbitration is this process where if a player and a team can't agree on a salary for the upcoming season, they go to this independent panel, and the panel decides.
So it's basically like a judge making the decision.
Right, exactly. And it can get really messy and contentious. You know, neither side really wants to go through that.
So this $28.5 million deal is basically the Blue Jays trying to smooth things over.
Yeah, it's them saying, look, we value you, we want to keep you happy while we try to figure out a long-term contract extension.
Okay, so the Blue Jays are at least making an effort to keep him. But that doesn't mean the Mets aren't sniffing around.
Right. The rumor mill is churning.
Yeah, some of those SNY insiders are reporting that the Mets have at least inquired about Guerrero Jr.'s availability.
Which, you know, you got to do your due diligence, right? You got to at least make the phone call.
Exactly. You got to see what's out there. And you know, it's especially interesting because this all coincides with Pete Alonso's contract situation.
Right. Our beloved polar bear.
He's a free agent after 2025.
Big year for him.
Yeah. And his camp has said they're open to a short-term deal,
Right.
you know, maybe 2 or 3 years with some opt-outs.
Right. Opt-outs meaning that he could potentially hit free agency sooner if he's having a monster year.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But so far, there hasn't been much progress on that front.
It's quiet. You know, you got to wonder what's going on behind the scenes.
And that's what makes me think, are the Mets hesitant to lock up Alonso long-term because they have their eyes on Guerrero Jr.?
It's a possibility, right? I mean, if you're thinking long-term, you look at Guerrero Jr.'s age, his consistency, his durability, and you think, okay, this is the guy we build around for the next decade.
Right. And I mean, you pair him with Soto, and suddenly you've got this just unstoppable offensive juggernaut.
Oh, yeah. Pitchers would be shaking in their boots.
So let's say the Mets do decide to go all in on Guerrero Jr.
Mm-hmm.
What's it going to take to get him?
Well, it's going to be expensive.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
The Blue Jays aren't going to let him go for cheap, especially not in the middle of his prime.
So we're talking top prospects.
Yeah, you're probably looking at giving up multiple top prospects, guys who are considered to be future stars.
And that's where things get tricky, right?
Yeah.
Because the Mets general manager, David Stearns, he's been very focused on building up that farm system.
He has. He's been drafting well. He's been making smart trades. He's really emphasizing sustainability.
So would he be willing to dismantle all that just for one player, even a player as good as Guerrero Jr.?
That's the million-dollar question, and it's a tough one to answer.
I mean, is it worth mortgaging your future for a shot at a World Series right now?
It's a gamble.
It's a huge gamble.
But, you know, on the other hand, if you wait until Guerrero Jr. hits free agency after 2025...
You don't have to give up any prospects.
Exactly. You can just sign him outright.
But then you're competing with every other team in baseball.
True, and there's no guarantee he chooses you.
That's a tough call.
It really is.
So what do the Mets do in the meantime at first base?
Well, they've got options.
Okay, lay 'em on me.
They could offer Alonso that short-term deal, keep the fans happy, buy themselves some time. They could give Mark Vientos a shot. He's a prospect who's shown some real potential at first base.
Yeah, he's got a good bat.
Yeah, or maybe they look for internal solutions at third base. You know, move some guys around, create an opening for Vientos at first.
Yeah, basically just kind of shuffle things around and see what happens.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, be creative, be flexible, and see if you can make it work.
But, of course, let's not forget who owns the Mets.
Ah, yes, Steve Cohen.
This is the guy who's willing to spend whatever it takes to win.
Yeah, he's not afraid to open up that checkbook.
So maybe the prospect cost doesn't scare him.
Maybe he's thinking, hey, if I can land Guerrero Jr. and create this unstoppable lineup with Soto and Lindor and everybody else, then it's worth it.
Right, the price is no object.
Exactly.
So Mets fans, I mean, what do you think is going to happen?
Is Guerrero Jr. going to be in a Mets uniform next year?
I mean, it's fun to dream about, right? But for now, it's more of a fantasy than reality.
Yeah, but you never know with this team. Anything is possible.
Exactly. So stay tuned, folks, because this Mets offseason is just getting started.
And as we wait to see what happens, think about this. What would you do if you were in the Mets front office?
Would you go all in for Guerrero Jr. now?
Or would you play the long game?
It's a fascinating dilemma.
It really is.
All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. We'll see you next time.
See ya.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.